Freedom. As regards what this singular struggle is actually about, it is not the effort to escape from some specific confinement, which by such effort will specifically keep you where you are, but is the exertion and desire to simply just, well, you know. One man told his mind that he was never going to sleep again until it shut up. And him being an extremely large individual, pajama stocks plummeted. A brief history of man's literary endeavors thus far. Men invented the concept of editing and rewriting when they realized that they didn't know what they were talking about to begin with. Life told reality, open your mouth and go, ah. And reality said, you mean ah, like in a medical examination. And life replied, no, you old fool, ah, like in a stalling tactic. Maybe it's the lighting. The story of commonplace captivity and prisons without walls. The sane, the normal, the conventional, those at the very heart of the human parade, stay in place not because they have to, but because they choose to. A mystic seeking an audience is not unlike lightning looking for a place to strike, and almost as bizarre. It is alleged that there was once a man who told the passengers on the mythical Orient Express that if they kept trying to get to Istanbul, that they never would. And no one ever cared for his comment. Yet he would periodically repeat it, always emphasizing the word trying in trying to get to Istanbul. Look at it like this, my boy, said a secret neural warrior to his son. We're all born into the midst of an already raging, apparently ongoing conflict. So the only thing left for one to do is to get out of it, not add to it. Definition. Reality. A mentally imposed intermediary device by which men can apparently, to some degree, manipulate life. The loquacious muse of terpsichore knows whereof and wherefore she speaks. Under common social conditions, talk acts as a non-touching dance men do with their tongues to lower the potential for physical conflict. The verbose spirit of civil terpsichore knows well her job. Local conditions get you into traffic initially by telling you that it's of importance what car you drive, a Chevy, a Lincoln, or a Mercedes, etc. You are then kept there by your acceptance of this imposed form of mental commercialism. Consumerism. The reason people can't see life for what it is through their windshields is because they believe that it distorts things and that they're not actually seeing what they're seeing. Do you realize that the solution to this is to simply abandon your vehicle? Did you say simply? You're right, I'm sorry. Sheep and cows will get into a line not knowing where it's going. Same as with men's neurons. One day, a man who could sometimes think multispatially pondered, if all roads ultimately lead to Istanbul, then they originated and spread out from there also. He pushed on neurally a bit deeper and sideways and further mused, so are we limited to just trying to go there, or is there an undreamt of possibility still? If you're right, would you replease the item you read recently on one of your programs that said, only a mystic himself fully understands what he's talking about sincerely? Certainly, consider it said. Also, the lobby for the Cop-Out Society wanted to contact us and complain about our alleged use of their copyrighted approach, but weren't able to raise funds sufficient for the postage to write. Boy, talk about your See, it was from the Cop-Out Society. It was from the operations and output of man's mind that one of the better-known dramatists filtered the title for one of his most famous works. But it was originally not Much Ado, but rather Everything the World Ado About Nothing. About the mind. And yet another short history of man. Eat what men do until the intellect comes. Think what they do till their hunger returns. Hey, if you don't like that one, just be thankful I didn't use sex instead of eating. Some men are clever enough to escape from physical confinement, but few from the other kind. The tokens of proficiency, the actuality of targets. Shooters with bad aims tend to have fancy bullets they can show off to the spectators before a match. If, physically speaking, the lame are the last ones turned to for help, what then gives regarding the welfare of man's other end? When a dense king knows not what else to do, he will bestow a title. Does anyone remember that in some of these allegories, the king may represent an individual man's natural level of mental development? The reason the conspiracy theories of the ordinary never go anywhere is because they can't find where they begin. Child prodigies and the need for collective stability. The way to kill a promising consciousness is first, get it to be serious. If reality is imaginary in the sense that it's not as real as life is, then we might consider that there are two types of reality possible. The first one is the one reality makes up for itself. And the second would be the one that a man could, let us say, if he knew what he was doing, let us say, make up for himself. Well, sure, it sounds tricky, but still not as much as trying to juggle reality's version. If we liken the ordinary mind to a train, then ordinary people are mentally stuck in a tunnel. The simple have nothing to talk about or dream about but themselves. Thus that the two largest publishing categories are autobiography and fiction. Tit for tatty, rat, tit. To the superfew, there is a biting, poignant example of justice, even beyond the one that says, for every time you excuse yourself, you incur a future obligation to excuse someone else. And this expanded version dictates that. For every time you talk to yourself, someday you'll have to listen to you. One guy says, the great thing about being on drugs, if you've ever thought about trying to expand your consciousness, is that when you're on them, you know for absolute certain that you can't. Takes a lot of pressure off of you, says he. P.S. I'll add for him, anger will work just as well. 2 days, completely made up, totally fictitious fairy tale. Once upon a time, there was a land where everything was just right, and as it should be. And in this magical land, only body parts from the head down were serious. All other parts had Mardi Gras all year round. Well, it's true, it is made up, but one part of it more so than the other part. Guess which part that is? Suddenly, right near the station, a man stopped and thought, how can you ever leave if you don't know where you are now? And a passing mind reader paused and inquired, didn't you mean to say if you don't know who you are? And the man took a swing at him immediately while yelling, damn it, it's been people like you who've kept me running in circles all these years. And to say that the soothsayer took umbrage at this uncalled for outburst would be a foreseeable understatement. The reason that so-called traditional wisdom seems of significance is that it helps keep men traditional. Attention all would-be mystics. Next Thursday at noon, you should destroy your library cards. And those of you really anxious should do the same with your city-issue minds. The simple can be kept in line through fear, and them and everyone else through ignorance. Ignorance. That's an old mystical story that wasn't actually included tonight, is what's the difference between being dumb and ignorant. It's frightening then to consider that you have to tell somebody the answer. We'll pretend I don't have to tell you. Another definition, the Enlightenment. Decades of running in place to flee non-existent locations, only to climax and suddenly realizing what's going on and being forced to softly say to yourself, oh. Of course, this is just one dictionary's take on the matter. One of the greater health dangers of the few continuing to hang around the Paris train station is that you can get infected with a damn near fatal verbal virus. How those who would be more conscious should approach the matter of thinking. First, think about absolutely everything possible, then stop. A wandering spiritual teacher, along with his followers, passed through a village wherein was a man who had a bear on a chain that would dance and do tricks on command. And the guru condemned him for holding a wild animal in captivity. But the man reacted by saying that the mystic was engaged in the very same thing regarding his human adherents. And just then a boy standing nearby offered this observation: but do not each of us, by our own normal mental operations, do the same to ourselves? The drama, the audience. There is no justifiable basis for the ridicule, sarcasm, and derision observers direct toward the spectacle being played out within a closed system. There is simply the matter of bad seats. To be ordinary is to believe it would be of value to know exactly who or what it is holding you captive and how or why it was done to you, while our own dear old mystic merely wants the hell out. Freedom, specifically described, is misdescribed. A guy asked a man he suspected to be a mystic, is seeing life and knowing the secret anything like finally coming to the end of what originally appeared to be a never-ending sentence? The belief that things can change is all that keeps man going mentally. Scrawled on the side of a monastery's wall, a mystic with a plan ain't much of a mystic. One day, while listening to some non-standard ideas, a man suddenly thought, within a closed system, how can anything actually be captive of anything else? Old title, new words. The Prisoner's Song. Oh, if I could quit thinking about it, I might could get out of here. As regards the area of metaphor and allegory, there are several ways to approach it. Things can either be pretty clear, really clear, or forget it. The simple beam with smugness as they continue to rediscover the obvious. Normal travel and otherwise. You might say that a mystic's only use for the train would be to ride this thing till its wheels falls off. The trick is to always have your mind right here, right now, or else nowhere in particular. Now for a short history of the mystic. A mystic starts off trying to push an immovable car up an impossible incline, only to ultimately abandon the whole project. And don't any of you whiny Nellies ask me, then what's the use? And finally this. The simple can never assume responsibility. The hint being, for those of you with such interest, stay the hell simple. It seems that once or twice the conversation has moved around to the fact of all the limitations within a closed system, which is, in a sense, charitable misspeak, because there's really only one limitation. How can there be more than one limitation within a closed system? At any rate, there appears to be inexplicable matters afoot which are not actually afoot, such as at a local, anecdotal level. Of course, we all know this is true, but within a closed system, there can be no theft. There can be no loss. People say, well, I lost something. I lost my reputation. I lost money. You lost it, but somebody else found it. You didn't lose it. And people even say, well, my money or my billfold just absolutely just disappeared from the face of the earth, which we'll assume is not literally true, but even if it is, so what? It didn't escape from the face of the universe, so it went nowhere. Or some people who never fully understood it, or at least were not in the mortuary sciences, used to like to point out that we come into the world naked and we go out naked. That is, no matter, you come in, no matter who you are, born to the Rockefellers or to the Smiths or to the Ledbetters, you come in naked, no matter what you accomplish in life, which you know from a kind of mystic's view is of no great consequence, but whether you amount to anything, whether you establish fame, fortune, etc., or you do nothing, you just coast by. Whatever it is, you're going out naked again. Except someone did point out that that's not literally true at the local level, because they are wont to bury you in a suit and tie. So somebody did point out, some local wag tried to point out, well, that's not literally true. You do come in naked, we all do, but they at least put you on a suit and tie, even if it's borrowed, or they at least the front part of a suit, you know. Which, of course, could lead one, I guess, to considering that if fair was fair and we did things on a higher level, they would bury you nude. But then that makes you think, most people look bad enough when they're dead. I mean, that old chalky face, they try to fix you up and make you look all healthy. And, you know, it's obvious you're dead. And now you lay, that's bad enough to have to look at people you know in their face. But what if the casket, you know, it was open, now they are naked and dead? I don't know. Back to the general proposition that nothing can be lost within a closed system. This is not simply theory, it is a fact. I mean, you can look at it physically and no one can deny it, that nothing goes anywhere. Now, that is not the way the ordinary mind works, and someone would take that. You get off the subject already? Sure, it's early. You could present that to an ordinary person, that nothing gets lost. The only thing you do is rearrange. There's no such thing as theft, there's no such thing as lost. And they even have one of the laws, that matter and energy cannot be created nor destroyed. There's nowhere within a closed system for anything to go. And so a person with an advanced degree in hard science would say, well, certainly, we all know that. And you can take an ordinary person with no degree in anything and say, do you realize, you talk about that you lost money, that somebody cheated you, or just you lost money, that you lost your girlfriend. Well, what money sounds better. People like a nice, apparently hard material example. And you say, you lost it, but it didn't go anywhere, even if you don't know where it is. It didn't go outside the universe. It didn't suddenly go, you know. And the guy go, well, yeah, so. Here we are talking about life again, right in people's face. Mm-hmm. But if you look at it from a local level, that is an individual anecdotal example, what the hell does life have to do with you? Try it again. Somebody says, I lost money. And you say, well, you didn't actually lose it. It didn't go anywhere. It's still here in life. And you can make them see it. And they go, well, so? Maybe I've got to back up and change terms, since I've been kicking around reality, and change the use of that. It's what ordinary people would call reality. Somebody says, I lost money. And you say, well, you didn't actually lose it. That is, it did not go somewhere. It did not disappear. It has not vanished. And they can see that. Somebody else has it, or else it's just laying there somewhere, but it did not disappear. Don't say your money disappeared. The person can go, okay, and you say, that's the reality of it. And they say, well, I know that's true. Count, I'd say 1 or 2, and they go, so what's the point? And this could be someone who even had aspirations to be more conscious, to try to understand life. It is back to, you understand why I changed it to reality? Because I thought life through you. It's what ordinary people, you'd say, well, the reality of it is, it didn't go anywhere. And it appears to them, if they thought in such a manner, that at very best, you're dealing around with some sort of, you're trying to lay on them a theoretical argument, which may be of some interest to philosophers or somebody, but you're trying to compare that to the hard reality that they lost their damn money. A person can believe that they're trying to understand what's going on in life, and you can take a place to where an ordinary man or woman says something disappeared, and you point out there's nowhere it can go. You don't have it, but it didn't disappear. And they go, well, yeah, that's true. And you want to wait like that they might see something. And they go, well, sure, that's true, but so what? Now, that's the same people. The Heart of Life's Parade that beat on drums, start fires, march up and down the street, and they form a parade in the middle of the parade, shouting out that we all should be more interested in the truth. That's one of their favorite terms instead of reality. The truth. And you pull the man aside and you say, well, the truth is, you remember we were talking about that your money disappeared. Yeah. The truth is your money didn't disappear. Nothing disappears. They go, don't start that again. And I said, well, that's the truth, though. You're out there marching for the truth. You're saying that what blinds men, why men do not get along, why men are not more intelligent, why humanity does not make greater strides forward. It's because they will not deal with the truth. They go, yes, I said that. The truth is, nothing goes anywhere. Even if it was yours and you don't have it, it did not go anywhere. There's nowhere for it to go. He goes, so what? Do I have to try it blunter? You can try. Do it yourself. We're not talking about me arguing with somebody. You try with yourself that you believe that you're wandering around trying to think great, more transcendental thoughts, more expansive, give more expansive consideration to life and etc. And all your mind continually does, even though you can make ordinary minds see the truth, using their term. You can make them see reality that nothing can go anywhere. We're living in a closed system, not just scientifically based on the laws of science. This is just a fact. Anybody with ordinary intelligence knows that just because you lost a diamond ring and you say, well, it disappeared, you know damn well it didn't disappear. It's somewhere. It's in this universe. And they go, yeah, I know that. But now figure them having to deal with themselves every day. You can say, yeah, I know that. And you turn right around and your life is operating on the anecdotal level. Because I didn't read it clear enough. There was one that pointed out that the ordinary have nothing to think about nor dream about. That is, nothing to aspire to. They have nothing that they can think about, nothing that they can dream about but themselves. And thus it is that the two largest, nothing is even close, the two largest categories in the publishing industry is autobiographies, or are autobiographies, and fiction, which is thinking about yourself and dreaming about yourself. By the way, you might also note, since we are all freed now, or I'm sure you're all freed from any of the potential plague, sickness of sarcasm and irony, that you do understand that most philosophers, most throughout history, would-be thinkers, are never satisfied, never ever satisfied until they write their autobiography, and oftentimes that's what helps get their little careers off the ground temporarily. is to write your biography and show what a whining Nelly you are, even though you may have some sort of academic background. That is, you have some fancy bullets to show around to the spectators before the shooting match starts and they find out what a bad aim you have. But show those bullets. Look at that. And the crowd go, wow, ooh, gold, little diamonds on them. Fancy gold seals with some kind of stamp on it. But they do that before the match, before you find out he couldn't hit a bull in the ass with an atomic bomb. This is all allegory, of course, I hope. They told me it was allegory. It's the only reason I dashed to repeat it. You can get a person. Let's go back to not just ordinary people. Look at yourself. And if you must keep switching back and forth, people who throughout the ages have aspired to, and nowadays would say that they would give anything for enlightenment, to awaken consciousness, to liberate the mind, whatever term they like. Whatever happened to Handel after he died? I can guarantee you this, they buried that man in a suit. I've seen drawings of him. Even in cruder times, there was enough propriety in society at that time, even in England, that they buried that man either in a suit or if he was nude, it was a closed coffin ceremony. People aspiring to, claiming, and it could be you, to see beyond the ordinary level, to see what life's about, the enlightenment. And they're absolutely contradistinctive, the reality of it, and a person believing that there is a way out of a closed system. This is not the way it's, obviously, it's looked at, or I wouldn't tell it to you. If it's the way everybody looked at it, I wouldn't bother. This is the origins of the idea of evil force, of Satan, demonic forces, evil. It is in one part, the reliance on man's nervous system at the higher end to feel as though things are always running down. It is the fact that there is no way out and the mind cannot explain it. It is having to deal continually, I'll go back to using ordinary terms, ordinary people's minds. No matter who it is, we're not talking about deluded people, we're not talking about clinically diagnosed psychotic or neurotic people, but all ordinary, intelligent, sane people are having to deal with what they call, they don't realize, but what they call lies. They're continually lying. And it can be pointed out, and they will admit it. For those of you that are just tuning in on your shortwave radios, this has nothing to do with people being misled and etc. This is the nature of life. It's not a criticism. I am describing it. That ordinary people, that you can get them to admit, you say, well, you didn't lose something. This is a closed system. All we do, it's like everyone's sitting at some kind of big gambling table while you're alive, if you're ordinary, and you keep, it's either musical chairs or you keep switching hands. Somebody wins for a while. Of course, when you get to the fringes of the middle of the parade, some people lose a lot. But we're talking about the ordinary people. The heart of life's parade, all you do is switch money. And if it's not finances, if it's on the social level, you swap spit. But it doesn't go anywhere. There's only so much spit, it's not going anywhere. There's only so much money, only so much gold, only so many diamonds, only so many reputations, one a person. You can lose yours, but somebody else gets it. You're the fastest miler in the world for years and years, and you're famous, and then along comes some upstart, and he cuts a second off. And you say, well, I lost fame, I lost my title. Well, you say you lost it, but it's not like it's lost. You know damn well where it is. He's got it. And you go, yeah, but it's like I don't have it. It went. It didn't go anywhere. It's right there. I mean, you can say it went somewhere, but not out of a closed system. It's not like you were walking down the street and suddenly you heard, and your reputation went out of some cosmic black hole and just disappeared from the universe. You know that. And people go, well, I know that. The point being, now I'm back to using their terms, they're having to deal continually, even scientists and everyone else, philosophers, theologians, everyone, they're having to deal with what they would call lies. I can give you a better definition of lies. It is simply reality. It is life, right in their face, fragmented, as it has to be for the mind. It has to cut it up, and once you cut it up, you can't ever put it back together again at that level. Which is another description, if you like that way, of the enlightenment, is you get above and you see where it was all cut up and you go, oh. It's just kind of all put back together. And you go, oh. So you have the human mind continually operating on by its own definition. They can see it for a second on a specious basis, that what it says is true. And we're not talking just intellectual matters now. I picked out an example of losing money. We're dealing with matters that have, from their view, an emotional impact. We're not talking theory. We're not talking competing philosophical schools of thought. When I say an ordinary person, you can get them to see. They're very upset. I lost my wife. My wife left me. Well, she didn't go for her. Well, she left me for my brother-in-law, or she left me for my brother, or my good friend. Well, I understand that, but you're acting like she exploded and spontaneous. Well, that wouldn't even help, because the ashes would still be here. You just get people, you can get somebody to admit, well, yeah, things don't actually go anywhere. We just swap things. You have them for a while, then you die, and somebody else gets them. Somebody else gets your name. Somebody else gets your genes if you have children. You got somebody else's. You're in this closed system. No one else, of course, has any reason to question it. But what I'm trying to get you to see is not a theoretical, philosophical discussion. The human mind, as the way it normally operates. Let's back up away from those attempting some transcendental effort. At the ordinary level, the way your mind, if you're just out there on the porch dealing with ordinary traffic and you think just the day-by-day affairs, you're continually belying the fact that you live in a closed system. The mind has to. That is why it is that no idea to the mind ever seems to be satisfactorily conclusive. If that's not overkill, it never seems to come to a satisfactory conclusion. You can't get anywhere. You think, well, that settled that. You know damn well it didn't settle that. Not if there's anything with any viability to it. Well, now we finally got that one down. Whatever that game is, didn't kids have one? You've beaten on things that pop up from one hole to another, and you hold down one. Or an infinite number of gophers in your front yard. You can hold down one, but you can go, well, that settled that, and the gophers go, they're taking a nap. Well, I got rid of those gophers. You put them on a rocket ship that is trans-universal, right? You send them out of the universe. And of course a man goes, no, I don't know where they went. All I want is them out of my front yard. There it is. And you say, but your mind tells you things and you listen to it and you say, well, this is reality. I'll accept that you call it reality, but then you bitch about it. That is, I'll repeat again. Remember, I'm using their terms because there is no such thing really, but they're dealing with what they would call lies. That you stop them and you say, and you grab the person and say, listen, you said you lost your money. You said it disappeared. You know that's not true. You don't know where it is, but it did not disappear. It did not cease to exist. There is nowhere for it to go other than away from you, out of your sight. But there's nowhere for it to escape from. And the person goes, well, I know that. But screw all that. What the hell are you talking about? I want my money. I want my car back. You then have, at the ordinary level, the smugness, the small pleasure that the mind gets, and you can see it operating at a collective level. You're subject to it if you let your attention kind of drift off, is the smallest pleasure, which is actually the greatest pleasure the simple can get, the simple-minded, the ordinary people, is that they are so pleased with themselves. They just darn near have bells on, as people used to say. They're so happy that they have rediscovered the obvious. All right, I'll give you an example, since I know that you'll be immune from it. It wouldn't have any effect on you. By the way, the only way that the only way that anything collectively could have never had any effect on you would be like this, by the way. You would have to have been a fish, not only born out of water, out of this universe. People continue. This is an easy one. There'll be somebody right today, either writing a political column, people talking at a party, but let's take people that apparently have some expertise, are regarded as being knowledgeable in the field of politics, such as a writer or a political commentator. And they will say, you know what? this whole idea of different political parties and et cetera is actually a sham. In fact, I have no particular faith, and we should finally face up to the fact here in America or Italy or France, wherever you are, here in 1990 or 1984 or 2001, doesn't matter. But we should finally face up to the fact here in England, people will seek public office, and a candidate, a man running, will tell you anything to get you to vote for him, and everybody waits with bated breath. And then once he gets elected, he don't care what he said. The point being, they will say anything to get elected. And you'll have grown people with suits and ties standing around at a lecture somewhere, and they will go, I'll be damned if... Well, of course, not all of them, but at least half the crowd will go, that's a fact. That's a fact. God, what? And then, of course, all this is saying, like we were to do something about it. Where have these people been? But you understand, this has nothing to do with politics. We've kicked around religion enough. But here's one. It just seems to be based on some sort of cold, hard, non-spiritual, non-transcendental, not even a possibility. We're talking about everyday, greedy, hard reality that men, they appear to be decent. Let me play the part. I'm reflecting one part of life's common consciousness at any given time. But let's say right now, I could be doing this, you could be doing it. You'd be get the microphone somewhere. They invite you to a debate, or you appear on a talk show or something, and you've got some credentials, or you claim that you are a very particular observer, close observer of the political scene, etc. And you say, well, I'll tell you what, you tell the panelist or the interviewer, I'm going to tell you what. Here's what really gets me about American or Italian or Chinese, whoever has free elections, which we won't go into the comment about free elections. I've already pointed that out to you. Life has that arranged. Because you can have free elections as long as you're in charge of counting the ballots. At any rate, in a place that apparently, by all common observation, has free elections, that men stand, that will show up and say, I would like to be elected. And we do things here in a different way. We are a nicer pack. I am not going to rip everyone's fur off who gets my way, unless I have to and can get by with it. But that's always unsaid. It's just that ordinary people, as they're supposed to, no longer hear it genetically. The wolves standing for office do not say it. By the way, in our lifetime, in case you won't see this happening, the figures, the personalities are not important. But here in our lifetime, just the last few years, we saw the erstwhile USSR go from, in a matter of years, go from a fairly good example of a totalitarian regime, that what they called elections was just a farce and everyone knew it, into actual free elections. And during this kind of transition period, which is apparently still going on, we have a man over there now who is like 1 foot, is a wolf, and he's prepared to be a wolf. This is not the only example in history, but here's one in your lifetime, that tall man with the white hair, suit and tie, and he stood for election, and assuming it was as legit as any, he actually got elected it was the first time that the Russian people held a, quote, free election in whatever it's been. Maybe in the lifetime of Russia, come to think about it. But at any rate, he got elected. But since then, and you could almost see it, if you had any ability to see, and it happens, as I said, a kind of transitional period, that he was a wolf. We're talking about an alpha male, strong testosterone, prepared, he would have killed to been head of the pack. But it just so happened he was a little late. He never could get in on the original killing and tear up the other, kill some past czar or tyrant, president, that they call him. And so here he is, and he's got 1 foot over here on the basis of, yes, elect me, and he kissed babies and handed out cigars or whatever they do over there. But he had another foot, which he's already proven, that I'm trying to run things in the right way. I'm trying to go by this this damn constitution and crap. But don't screw with me. I'll rip your fur off. And it's there it stands, and there it's right before people's eyes. The reason I bring it up is not to comment on politics, but here it is. And publicly, you've got people on different sides of the world, different sides of the apparent political street, such as in countries with a greater history of so-called democracies and free elections, they look at it and they know something's wrong, and they just think, get this all straightened out. And then you've got people on the other side, even there in the same country, that was used to being pushed around and told what to do. They think, come on, bite us on the neck, stop all this stuff about free elections. You're not getting anything done. Get out here and stop crime in the street. Anytime somebody mugs somebody, shoot them like we used to, like God and the Tsar intended. They don't know which way to go, apparently. Back to, that was all. Still part of the same metaphorical pointing. But back to what I was going to say. You have people, if we were playing the part of someone saying, these guys will do anything to get you to vote for them. And you could hear it. If you're ordinary, let's say it was on the radio or television, and some guy says that, and he even makes examples, but he just says, I'll tell you what's happened. I'll tell you how this country's going wrong right today. And they may throw out examples, and if he names 2 or 3 presidents or somebody, surely hit one if you're ordinary that you don't like, and you go, yeah, that old damn crook, that bum. Yes, I'll tell you exactly where this country, as I said, you can fill in, it's not just America, but people always, again, that's a sign, if you need it, of extremely limited, which is ordinary, intelligence, as everything must be a local anecdotal example. I'll tell you where America is going wrong, or France. You have people now, it's just happening, remember. You have people now who will stand, who will seek public office. Yeah? They will say anything. They will say damn near anything to get elected, just to get elected. And you could be sitting at home and either find it a small revelation or at least find it a small, pleasing revelation on the basis that, well, finally, somebody else understands this besides me. This passes for significant insight. This passes for some sort of social, if not intellectual, discovery that, my God, there could be some truth in that. Of course, if you argue with it, it's as true as anything. But there's nothing to argue with other than just between us shade tree mystics. It's to say, where has their genetic line been for 8 million years? All right, 5,000. But do you understand, and you do it yourself at the ordinary level, and not just politics, every time you hear a criticism, if I may refer you back to one of the albums tonight entitled, The Drama, the Audience. See, because all of this is based upon the criticism, the critique of life, of reality as men see it. The item, entitled The Drama, the Audience, went, there is no justifiable basis for the snide remarks, the sarcasm, the scorn, the derision that spectators, that people, the observers, direct toward this ongoing, never-ending spectacle within a closed system. There's no justifiable basis for it. In other words, it's just really a farce. It's just an illusion that they even try to do it. What's happening, what they think as being something worthy of criticism, it's easy to explain. It's bad seats. But of course the thing is, at street level, I'm going to have to tell you, they're all bad seats. Everybody's sitting behind a pole or a woman with a big hat or somebody that's drunk and keeps throwing up on your shoes. They're all cheap seats. So once you understand that, and that you and everyone else is too far from the stage, either that or too close, the same thing, you're in a bad seat, and then you understand, well, that it is explainable, or it is understandable why you and everyone else in the bad seats, which their last count was damn near 6 billion bad seats available. They're available. They're for the taking. Once you understand it's a matter of bad seats, then it is somewhat understandable why it is that people go, God damn, do you see what they're doing over there? You're that far away, you're at that wrong angle, whatever. You understand a bad seat. Everybody's had a bad seat somewhere. Then once you understand that, it may, to say the least, have not a direct paralleling to what is going on in the spectacle. Put it to you another way. If you can see, it's the same thing as saying that nothing can actually be lost. There's nowhere for anything to go within a closed system. All you do is change seats, change money, change rings. That on that same kind of basis, within a closed system, the spectacle going on, there is really nothing. What was the basis, the opening round of that news item? There is no real basis. There's no justification in the full sense of the word. In other words, you're in error to feel as though something taking place is worthy of criticism. Now, we constantly see things on an anecdotal level. You can say, well, hey, some guy keyed my car. Some guy stole my money while I laid down at a bar. I understand that. I understand that. But you understand it was a matter of bad seating. But a person at the ordinary level, you think, well, wait a minute. Even though you would be, again, assuming you're sane enough, you would be quite hesitant to say this. But your feeling is, your operational reaction to someone keyed your car, or somebody, you laid down some money and you're about to pay the bill, and you went to the bathroom, you came back to pay your check at a restaurant somewhere, and you're late like a 50, and the waitress suddenly walks up and says, and you say, well, I laid it here, and you find somebody stole your money. The feeling is, civilization itself, there's no doubt. It is. That's it. Might as well flush it. It's down. You thought things were bad until right then, but that's the clincher. We all understand that. All you got to do is be human. That statement always seems to sort of lack something. I mean, you say it, and at first it sounds like it's kind of a cheer up, like, well, press on, and you're just human. And you think, At any rate, you do know. It's not sarcasm and it's not ridicule directed at humans. But you do know that you can stand right there, and your feeling is, right then, if somebody rushed up and said, do you realize that they have just discovered, the UN just discovered that over in such country where they've been peacekeeping, they just found a mass grave with 300 women and children shot. And you go, oh my God. You're a decent human, and at the same time the waitress says, I think somebody took that $50 bill. Was that guy with you? And now you're left with hundreds of women and innocent children shot, and somebody just keyed your car, or somebody just took your $50 bill. Which is it? It's not much of a contest right then, because right then the problem is local. The problem is anecdotal. The problem is individual. Wait a minute. And so the feeling is, you can survive the discovery of this mass grave right then. You can survive. Okay. Well, but this, good God, is there no end? Do you see, though, what I was trying to get at about the drama and the bad seats? In a closed system, we all know that it does feel like that. If it hurts you personally, it's like you losing money. You don't want to lose the money if you work for it. But the idea that in some way it is personal to you, in some way it's individual, that in some way it is actually worthy. If you had a wider view of life, not theoretical, because that won't work. I mean, you can try that all you want to. Hell, if you could do that, you could be a religious person. Save yourself a lot of effort and pressure, as one news item pointed out. Skip all this. The thing is, in a closed system, if you can get away from the bad seats, in a closed system, the spectacle going on, which is a closed system living, there is no such thing. There's nothing worthy of your criticism. Or I put it to you another way, you're not worthy of finding something going, did you see what happened over there on that edge of the stage? And of course, what happened was, it was somebody maybe it looked like you. Looked like could have been your family, your nationality, your religion, whatever it was. Something on stage, you thought, wait a minute, they're about to key my uncle's car. Somebody's about to insult my nationality or some crap. The point is, anything that you think is worthy of criticism, we're talking bad seats. You just can't see good. There is no such thing as a bad performance in a closed system. Or I put it to you another way. If there is, and they're about to close the show, it's not going to matter to you. Because, see, the thing about a closed system, I believe you already got it. If they close the show this Saturday, the audience goes with the show. If they pack up, if they close it down, figure cut our losses, they're going to cut everybody's losses. That means life is moving on somewhere else, and don't ask me where else it's going to move on to. But that means the closed system. A closed system does not shut down. That is, sort of in passing, you might care as part of the idea again. Well, first off, it's the concern of ordinary individual minds of, again, looking at life as being fragmented and having such concern over death. That's why so much of human history, philosophy, religion, music, well, you know how widespread death is, the concern over it, the concern over it, the expressed concern over it. And, of course, all the extensions of it from ordinary views of the idea of reincarnation, life after death, and etc. But the point being that the ordinary mind, from a bad seat, somebody on stage dies and they don't get back up. And you think, hell, my Uncle Willie died. My Aunt so-and-so died. I used to know that guy. And, of course, they keep looking, some of them more and more like you. Or you think, wait a minute, those people are the same age I used to be, or I am. I went to school with those people and two of them just died. Wait a minute. And people get concerned. But why do they get concerned? They're in a bad seat. Because, again, here it is. And I'm not trying to give you a sort of a hint. I'm just stating a fact. Because everybody can see it. They don't see it about life because, again, this is probably the extreme. No, it is the extreme example of individual, personal, anecdotal significance. Death, to them, is the final inexplicable, wait. If I say, but wait a minute, we already established, you agreed that money, a ring does not disappear. There's nowhere it can go. It's in a closed system. You don't have it, but it's somewhere. And they go, yeah. Well, where the hell do you think people go? Where does life go? Where does it have to go? People die and don't get up, yeah? But you didn't stay there long enough. All right, I can explain it other ways. I just want you to see it's always fragmented because if you will understand, if you can see, which anybody can, even though they'll turn right around if you try to hold them for a second, and they will try to explain away as that is too theoretical to have any personal significance to the fact that I just lost my car keys. But you can get them to see you didn't lose them. I mean, they are not disappeared. They are not gone forever. Or even if they are, you do realize they did not molecularly disappear from this universe. Yeah, I know that. You're right. Well, how do people disappear? What's the difference in people disappearing, life disappearing, if you can't get outside a closed system? But understand, if you can even get a person to go, yeah, that's true about my ring. That's true about money. That's true about reputation. But it gets down to them personally. And you go, well, where are you going to go? I mean, sure, you're going to die. You're going to lay there and rot. People will get rid of you and throw you away. Even your good friends and families finally going to go, somebody, put him in a bag and take him out. Give him a burial. But the point is, where do you think you go? And, of course, that opens up to people going, well, I'm a Christian, I'm going to heaven, and a Muslim says, I'm going to paradise. And a Buddhist, they got a closer idea. Some of them, they're hoping to go nowhere. So I don't have to think about it. On the surface, it sounds better. I'm going to nothingness. Of course, I guess you lived in Detroit originally. Well, never mind. The mind continues to rediscover the news item, and what I was going to use as a punchline for the night or temporary, is your mind and everyone else's. You continue to look around at what is obvious. See, it's not an attack on people saying, well, even though I did the dramatic sarcasm and such, as somebody saying, I'm going to tell you what's wrong with this country. Politically, I'll tell you exactly what it is. We have too many men. I mean, it's just endemic. We have people now standing for public office from the lowest local levels, community levels, all the way to our national politics. Men who will, no matter how they look, men who will right now get in the public media and will look dead in the eye of a camera and will say anything. And so you'll see people shiver. They're afraid what he's going to say, or at least part of it. They go, yeah, that's right. Yeah, you should be frightened. We've got people who aspire to lead this mighty nation of decent, law-abiding, truthful people. And we have men who will stand right there and look at you and say anything. They'll run a poll right quick and decide what's the views, what should I say about crime or abortion, and they will say anything to get elected. And people, and to them it's like, well, maybe we're getting somewhere. I mean, it's horrible to consider that, but at least now that we see it. Now that we see it. And it's not just that example, you understand, but my sarcasm is for you're supposed to understand. If you don't know, I'll quote it. There was a guy, anyway, Herodotus or somebody reported there were some Greek political commentators 2,000 years before the AD time said the same damn thing. They said, "Oh, Athens will never last at this rate. Here it is, the greatest experiment in democracy and free elections, and now we have men showing up who will say anything to us to get elected." The point being that the simple mind, the fragmented mind that looks at everything locally, to even keep itself going, has to believe that it's continually rediscovering. Well, I put it rediscovering the obvious. It feels like it's continued to make new discoveries of significance. And my little sarcasm was to get you to see, which I assume you did, that, come on, that's nothing new. I don't know how far your even ordinary thought about it was. You might say, they had crooks in the 1920s. Grow up. They had crooks, as you would call them, ordinary people, in Grecian times. They have crooks amongst generals and tyrants fighting for absolute control over places. The whole point is there is no morality amongst wolves. There is no morality in a closed system. The closest thing to morality is keep it rolling, keep breathing, keep living, and that's what you should hope for. That's the only morality. But the mind has to feel as though, well, now I have made an important new discovery. And my little theatrical sarcasm is you've got to begin to see that everything that people discover, besides the laws of so-called scientific necessarily, which is another story, but what appears to be the laws running the nature of man, the development of human progress, social conscience, consciousness itself, intelligence, that the whole thing is a continuing rediscovery of the obvious, which doesn't do them any good because they don't actually see the obvious and go, well, wait a minute. In other words, somebody didn't say, wait a minute, here we are having men run for office who will lie to us, say anything to get elected. All right, that's a fact. That's true. That's reality. That's even life. But it's reality because men put a word on it. Nobody then says, yeah, that's true. And they start a discussion. Somebody says, did you know it was true 20 years ago? And they give an example, and they all go, yeah. And then it spreads from just these 2 or 3 people on a TV show. It's getting out into the billions of people. And then somebody says, wait a minute, it was true in the 1800s. And then somebody said it was true in the 1600s. And it was true in China. And it was true in India. It was true in Africa. It was true in... Then we're back to the beginning of history. In other words, it has spread to where almost everybody on this planet goes, did you know it's always been that way? Isn't that what it should lead to? Once somebody saw one thing, should it not just spread? And everybody go, well, wait a minute. We thought it was something new when we started this discussion. Maybe it took them a couple of weeks. Let's say that. And somebody said, you remember it was 2 weeks ago, that first guy that we were listening to went, we got people now will tell us anything to get elected. And we started discussing it, and it spread wider and wider, and people threw in their views, and they brought in their history, and they pointed out. And now we realize, why do we think that was something new? That's the way it's been. That is the way life is. And then everybody go, well, good. Now we've settled that, let's do something else. Let's either throw a party, or if there's another problem, let's do the same thing to it. No. If it spread like that, and everybody go, well, that's a fact, Jack. 6 million people go, that's a fact, Jack. Case closed. It'd be 2 weeks, and somebody would rediscover it. That is the operation of the ordinary mind, which is the one I said that one guy finally went to somebody that he suspected to be a mystic, and he said, look, is knowing the secret, that is seeing what's going on, is it anything? Is it anything like finally feeling like that what appeared to be a never-ending sentence finally came to some kind of damn conclusion? It was a rhetorical question, and that was the end of the news item.